today again with Bob Gregory, the OEM Director from Princeton, and this week we're going to wrap up National Preparedness Month and talk about power outages and how to prepare. These past couple weeks we've been touching on a lot of different things, and last week we touched on some power outages associated to hurricane preparedness. Now we're going to talk about all kinds of power outages and what you can do to prepare. We'll try to keep the volume high. If you notice that it's a little low, please let us know and we'll make sure we do what we can. So let's start it out with what are some things that would cause a power outage, Bob?
So, right besides the obvious that we've been talking about all month, hurricanes, there are other weather storms. Snowstorms, ice storms are sometimes worse or as bad as hurricanes. And this past winter we saw some of the devastation throughout the country of, when you get an ice storm, you bring down a lot of power lines. But simpler than that, you can have just a regular storm roll through, thunder, lightning, winds that take down power lines. You could have a motor vehicle accident. You can have a malfunction at a transfer station. Heat, you get yourself into a pattern in the summer months where you have heat waves and things like that wreaks havoc, on electric systems. So there are a lot of other things that can cause a power outage, which is sometimes contained to certain areas or throughout a town and city.
Okay, and then when related to the ice and things like that, what happens is the lines come down, or is it just too cold?
Yeah, a lot of times what happens is just that there's the ice is too heavy for the lines or the trees that are around the lines, and the lines will just come down, the trees will come down, take the power lines with them. Okay. And that's very difficult because the first step is to sort out. You have to get the tree out of the lines, and then you have to get your poles back up and your lines back up. And the fact that you have maybe several feet of snow or ice and rainstorm doesn't make it easy for power companies to do that. So you can get extended times where your power's out.
Now, in reference to the cold or the heat, power companies are known to do rolling blackouts. What exactly are they?
So I've experienced some of those here in New Jersey in summer months, where you have a heat wave, and they start to have problems with transformers, substations, and what they do is they start asking for individuals to conserve energy, shut down air conditioning units, if it's non-critical staff, if they can let out early, do an early release thing. If those things don't happen, and there's some major outages at the substation, at times what they do is just roll through and brown out to conserve power or to shift the power grid, if you will. So that's been my experience with it, and my understanding in discussing some of that with the power companies when that's happened. It hasn't happened often here in New Jersey, but I have had experienced it on a couple occasions.
And what could we do to prepare for something like that? Because usually they give you notice and say, hey, we're going to be doing this at this time. So how can we prepare our home for that?
Right. So one of the biggest things you can do is when you have items like computers, for individuals who have medical needs and things like that, backup power is important, so that if systems go down or if you get a dip in power, that you don't experience outages for critical things in your home. Some of the big things that can be affected by it, clearly freezers, refrigerators, computers, and as I said, if you have any type of in-home health care, oxygen machines, things like that, you want to make sure that you address those with backup power.
Okay, great.
And surge protection.
Okay, right. Now, in reference to power outages, if there is a power outage, what type of items should we have on hand to help us during this power outage and to get us through it?
Right. So, and that depends on the length. Clearly, your some of the things like food, people are usually interested in the food thing. Your refrigerator will hold its temperature for a certain amount of time. Usually there's something in that manual you either throw out or stick in a file somewhere. It's good to read them. The other thing you could do is, especially if we know a storm is coming or something like that, is ice in coolers. So you can put things in coolers if it's going to be extended. And of course, the other thing is to have dry food, dry goods, in your home in case this happens. And usually, again, a lot of times where it's going to be extended power outages if a storm's coming, something of that nature.
What about having cash or fuel in my car, things like that? Are those things I should always try to keep on top of?
Yeah, I mean, cash is always good, right?
Yes. It is.
And you should always use the half tank rule, right? And especially in the winter months. If you're down to a half tank, fill up your car because you can get stuck in traffic where you have to idle for a while. The other thing, too, when you talk about cars, in the wintertime, especially if you have a long commute or you're going on a trip, it's always good to take, pack away an extra sweatshirt, a blanket, things like that. So if you are stuck, you can keep yourself warm. Last week we talked about charging devices. There are a lot of charging devices. I know a lot of individuals have them, so that if your cell phone's going dead and you can't plug it into your car because you're stopped somewhere or the car's out of service, you can at least plug your cell phone in to make a phone call.
Right,
to
those
get
are some
help.
of the small generators that you showed us last
Yes.
week. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned the refrigerator and the loss of power. Is there any way, or do you have some suggestions on where we can go to find information on how long these refrigerators will keep?
Yeah, usually
cold?
usually the manufacturers have that information if it's out there, so that's the best place to look.
Now, what if I have a portable generator for these emergencies? Would I be able to keep it in my garage?
Right, so the issue with portable generators is always carbon monoxide. So you want to keep it outside, and actually you want to try to keep it usually a good 10 feet from the house. If you have to put it closer, you don't want it under a window. The problem is you should always try to position it away from windows and the like, because if the wind's blowing towards your house and your generator's pushing out CO, carbon monoxide, it can push it right back in the house. So, with those, you need to be careful of where you place it so that you don't end up poisoning, the household.
Right, we don't want that. Now, but what if it's raining outside? Is there a risk to me keeping it outside?
No, they usually run pretty good in the rain. I mean, there's always a risk with electricity and rain, but you can get kind of a little ingenious with it. I know if you have, one of the things I've done before for grilling outside in power outages or using a generator, we have the big picnic umbrella, so I would just pop that up and
That's a great idea.
to keep the rain off of it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You mentioned carbon monoxide alarms. Should all houses have them? And is there something that will they help us in a power outage? Is there something in the house itself, if the power goes out, we have to worry about?
Usually, when the power goes out, you're not going to be able to run things that can, cause carbon monoxide, with the exception of a generator and a car in a garage. Most CO detectors now have battery backup, so they're still going to function for you. So, if something does go wrong, you'll be alerted to it.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. Now, you mentioned the car, just to mention also the car in the garage. If we need to charge our cell phone or something like that, we could do that in the car. Some tips you could offer with the car in the garage if we're going to use that as a type of charging place?
Right, so what I would suggest, if you have to turn your car on to get it to charge, you pull it out of the garage, because even with the door open, you can still have, for an extended period, CO get into your house.
Into the house,
Yep.
yeah, okay. Now, if there's a power outage in town, is the town going to provide us places to go to charge our phones, to keep warm, to keep cool, whatever?
Yep, so in Princeton, depending on the length of the power outage, usually what happens is if we have the powers out and it goes more than a day, we will usually open the EOC, start communicating with the utility companies, and actually then identify some centers where people can go and charge up and get on Wi-Fi and things of that nature. And we usually put that out through mass notification. The reverse 911, Nixle, Access Princeton will put it out on the web page, on email. We try to get it out on several different types of media, so people know where to go and the times that they're open.
Yeah, so social media is a good place to go, the town website.
Yep.
The reverse 911, now most people will get that call on their home phone. Is my home phone going to work during a power outage?
If you have battery backup. And that's a good question, because a lot of phones now, some go through, the traditional phone lines. Some are actually routed through your cable. So unless you have backup, like in my home, we route it through cable. We have a 24-hour backup on that. After that, it goes down. So we're without phones, Wi-Fi, everything. That's why a cell phone number is good to give. You could sign up for a notification on the Princeton webpage with the cell phone. Right. So it's always good to get that in there too.
Okay. And then also in reference to the power outage in home, cordless phones, they're not going to work. So if you don't have a hardwired phone, then you're not going to get the phone call at home.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's about all I have. Is there anything else you want to add to today about power outages? Any other tips?
Well, I would say that just one thing homeowners can do. I know in Princeton the town has been working diligently, but tree maintenance is always good. You have wires on your side of the road. Start here by calling the arborist. Princeton has an arborist. I know will be happy to come out and give you some advice on what to do. Unfortunately, the town is not going to trim your trees that you own on your property, but we're here to help and we're a resource. And if they happen to be on the right-of-way or a property that the town owns, it's our responsibility. So if you see an issue, a tree that you think is dying or dead, and that's a problem, call, and we can come out, look at it, and assess it.
Okay, and that's great information. If you do see any trees like that are overgrown or on the town property or you have questions about, make sure you can give us Access Princeton a call, or you can report it on the web through SeeClickFix or the Access Princeton website. So thank you again for your time, Bob. Thank you for this month, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again about emergency preparedness.
Thank you.